Thank you so much, Marco. And may I introduce the members of the panel. We have Liam Maxwell, who's the UK Chief Technology Officer. We have Riccardo Luna, who's the Italian government's digital champion. And we have Emilian Pavel, who is a member of the European Parliament. So you've all heard quite a bit today about the content of the digital single market. But this session now is about implementation. Where are we? What are the barriers? What are the opportunities? And we've got a great panel who can share some of their insights on that. But before we get into looking ahead to what might come next, I wanted to give you a snapshot really of where our panel think we are at the moment vis-a-vis implementation of the digital single market. And I ask Emilian maybe just to give us his snapshot of where we are from his unique vantage point in the European Parliament. Emilian.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for having me here today. It's very exciting for a former programmer to be in Silicon Valley. It's like being in heaven. So where we are today, we have a very good package from the Commission on the table in the Parliament, and we are working in the IMCO and ITRE committee as leading committees. But in my committee, the Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs Committee, we have some key issues that we tackle as a leading committee, like data privacy, e-government, and other important topics. So we have, at this stage, we have big debates in the European Parliament about the digital single market, and this would be the best time for you here in the room and those at home that will benefit or will suffer from the policy that we are doing in the Parliament to give the input to us. So I've heard a lot of things, a lot of problems that we have in Europe, and this is the best period to solve them or to do them worse. And as Mr. Holger said from the Commission, we need your input. We need your reply to our questions and to our. We don't have 751 engineers, programmers in the Parliament. We have politicians there. So give us the input from your side that you have to suffer if we do wrong, you have to benefit if we do good. And Mr. Paul Shaw from Google said it, and I'm very happy that he said it. You have open doors in the Parliament, not only mine, but also a lot of my colleagues are very open-minded towards startup and the ICT sector in the European Union, which will bring to the people that live in Europe, and I'm a member in the Committee of Employment, a lot of new jobs, but most important, quality jobs and well-paid jobs in the European Union.
Thank you so much, Emilian.
I forgot to say the terms. We will be, hopefully in December, we will end the debates in the committees and we'll have the vote. And beginning with January or at the latest February, we will have the package voted by the Parliament, which will be then with the Commission's proposal together sent to the Council. Then afterwards it's politics, and it's even more worse than in the Parliament or in the Commission. We will do our best to have a very good package for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emilian. When we were talking briefly before the panel about the title for this panel, Riccardo had quite an interesting, almost existential point about the concept of a single market in the area of digital. But I wondered if you might share that with the audience here.
First of all, my country, Italy, is very committed to digital single market. But the first action when it started the semester of Italian presidency last year, last July in 2014, was to convene in Venice, to invite in Venice all the stakeholders for an event called Digital Venice. Ended up with a manifesto about the urgency and the importance to have this digital single market just before it was a policy on the top of the agenda of the European Commission. And actually, it's very important for us. But what I really miss now, not just in Italy, but in Europe, is the fact that, I mean, we are not making the front page of the newspaper. I'm a journalist. People are not debating digital single market in TV shows. They're not talking in coffee or in the restaurants about the importance of digital single markets. They think it's something just related to the digital world, like an emerging niche, something that it's interesting maybe here in Silicon Valley or for digital startups. It's a wrong perception. Digital, it's our life. It's affecting every aspect of our life now. It's not just for startups. It's digital fabrication. It's for manufacturing. It's for education. It's for every aspect of our life. It's even more important than the single market that we still have in Europe. And I think that we should send a strong message about it. It is not something interesting only just us working in the digital world, because there is not anymore a digital world. Digital world is the world. So it's affecting everybody.
Yeah, I think everybody here is nodding in response to that. I wanted to turn to looking at this from a pan-European level and get the thoughts from the panel on what might be the barriers and indeed the opportunities out there for implementation of the digital single market across Europe. Maybe we could start with the barriers to that. Liam, would you be able to share with us what you think one of the headline barriers to implementation might be?
I think one of the famous barriers to it is access to copyright and intellectual property. And although we work in a world where we can look at lots of things across borders, sometimes we can't watch particular TV or sports or TV across borders. That's one of the headline things. And actually, as we, in the rest of the world, this is an open market. And so it's one of those things that those throttling and building up barriers to those things is naturally going to take up an enormous amount of energy trying to stop people exchanging information. So that's one of the barriers, I think, which it's going to be increasingly difficult to sustain. I think also the ability for where people buy things and the ability to procure and to sell is one of the things which will speed up integration across the market. And we've heard our minister talk a little bit about that and what we've tried to do in the UK to create a level playing field for all companies when they come and work and try and partner with us. And that's one of the things that will help us change the approach to the marketplace. Actually, it's not just, as Riccardo says, it's not just the digital market, it's the marketplace. And collaboration and cooperation are those things where the digital single market aims to create a level playing field. I think that's one of the barriers when it comes down that will make a huge difference to the way our economies work, and it will increase the ability for smaller companies and newer companies to gain traction a lot more quickly. And that, I think, will be one of the big changes, that people will be able to start businesses and start to grow businesses across Europe as opposed to just within countries.
Emilian, can I ask you to pick up on that point? What are the barriers from your perspective?
Yeah, let's take example the UK and Estonia from the European Union, and Norway were mentioned in the former panel of being innovative in e-government or being further than other member states. Some things that were done in those countries, in other member states in the European Union, are maybe against the constitution about implementing them there. So we have to focus on that. We have to really have a digital single market. It cannot be 28 single markets. It has to be one. And we have to work in some member states also on the constitutions and the laws in there that are only in their member states.
Riccardo.
As for my country, I think that the main barrier is related to digital skills. Let's just take a look at Italy, because I was telling you before that Italy took a kind of leadership with Digital Venice 18 months ago. But we are actually not leading a process. We are following a process. Also, for my role as digital champion, I'm going after what Martha Lane Fox did in UK several years ago, and the role has been invented after her work in UK, working on digital skills of UK citizens. And we are trying to do the same, because Italy now has the highest number of people who never use the internet, highest number in Europe. I think we are just a little bit more than 23 million Italians never use the internet. And why they do it? I think partly because they see the risk of the internet. They think they're not able to do it, or they simply ignore it. And I mean, 23 million are a big burden for our country. Now that's the reason why we are acting in a very, very aggressive way. First, the government. In 18 months, the government really demonstrated that we are not any longer a sleeping beauty, but just we are awake and ready to play a role, because new legislation has been passed about education, public sector, jobs, for instance, jobs. And there is a big investment coming in related to ultra broadband in Italy. As you know, Italy is at the very bottom of the rank for broadband in Europe. We're just at the same level of Romania. And so the last country in Europe. Now 12 billion euros are being invested for ultra broadband in Italy. So in a couple of years, it will be not an issue anymore. I mean, we will all be connected, but we still miss digital skills. That's why we're acting like in a door-to-door way. I'm still nominating digital champions in every single town in Italy. It's kind of an army. 2,000 digital champions are acting in Italy in their own communities. And we are going to nominate a digital champion in every school, so that they can take advantage of all the money that the government is putting in the digital schools, digital education. So we are building a kind of army who's going to act in a very Silicon Valley style, like evangelists, going after grandmothers, grandfather, entrepreneurs, telling them the opportunity, why they have to learn how to use it and to take advantage of it.
One of the concepts that Martha also gave us was digital by default, which is a key part of this, is that although if you can build as much, if you don't design things properly, people aren't going to use them. And in a government, that's a really fundamental point. And boy, we were good at building things that people wouldn't use. And now we do build things that people use. And this concept it's a glorious British civil service term, digital by default, because it's very passive aggressive. It says that you must build things that are so good that people will prefer to use the online version, which is actually a hell of a challenge. But it's by building things in that way that governments can work in this operation, and we can actually get more people to use online services. Because ultimately, if we don't get people to use the digital version, if we don't get people to use the online services, we will not be able to afford to run our government. It's as simple as that. It costs so much money to have a telephone call with somebody. If we don't fix this, we will price ourselves out of our own market. And that's why it's an existential challenge to us.
I mean, I think some of the flip side, the opportunity of an implemented digital single market has come up in the context of your comments there, but I wonder if you could pick that up specifically, and maybe, Emilian, you could respond to that first. What do you see as the main prize, the main opportunity from a fully implemented digital single market?
So the most benefits that we will have, as I said it, more jobs, we will be more connected, more competitive, more creative. And when you think about it, we heard the word disrupting. Okay, but it has more benefits than it does damage. And this shift from the culture we had, or we have, and we have to change, is very hard, but it is necessary so that we can be competitive. So these jobs that we create are, first of all, big in numbers and good in quality.
Liam, can I ask you to respond to that as well? Opportunities.
Yeah, I think the opportunities are there for us to create high-quality services, but also we have to recognize that we're competing in a global market. And the European digital market, or the European economy, has to be able to compete at the right price and at the right scale with other countries. And I think the digital market gives us the opportunity to break down the barriers we have internally to enable us to get the scale, to enable us to drive innovation and creativity across the whole of the community, rather than just doing it in particular segments. And that's where the long-term sustainability is going to come from.
Riccardo.
I think that digital single market is not just a framework, but also a playground for innovators. And so the first output would be economic growth. I mean, the thing that we're looking for the most now. And I think that the thing that has not been perceived in the public opinion yet is the fact that through digital, you're not just changing the digital world, we are changing the physical world. What is called the Internet of Industry. In a continent, Europe, where manufacturing is so important, like think about, for a minute about Made in Italy, which is a benchmark for quality of physical products. I mean, manufacturing through digital is going to be completely different. It's going to be more competitive, more productive. Also, it's going to take advantage of globalization. So I think that manufacturing is going to be disrupted in a very short time. Think what you can do with a 3D printer in an industry now for rapid prototyping. And so taking your product to the market in a shorter time. So I think this is going to be very appealing for the public opinion when they realize that finally it's not something digital, it's something very physical that is empowered by digital world.
And
Thank you, Riccardo.
to add to that, we have to come, we will disrupt the system, but then we will have to bring the skills to the people that worked in that system so that they can work with those new skills in the digital sector, not to be left out, let's say.
Absolutely. We, of course, are talking about a body of 28 member states, and I wanted to bring the concept of implementation of the digital single market back to the member state and maybe ask for your opinions on the importance of what member states do to make this a reality. Liam, why don't you respond to that?
I think to focus, the digital single market is there to encourage economic growth. So I think focusing on the ability to grow and also the ability to reduce the cycle time to create services and to create products gives people something to hang a successful outcome on. I think a lot of the time some of the words and generalities we have about the digital single market need to come down to what it's actually about. It's about being able to reduce the time it takes to create services and to create new products and enable the community to become much more competitive. And I think that's that's the thing it needs to do.
Riccardo.
I think that digital single market cannot be successful if it's just a top-down process. I think that we have to try a way to engage the public opinion in this target. And it arrives in a very critical moment for the European Union. Because we are talking now about digital single market in the same time while we are also seeing the crisis of the European ideal. Take a look at what's happening now with the migrants movement. I mean, thousands of people arriving at the frontiers, at the borders, and new borders are appearing suddenly. I mean, the Schengen Treaty has been so important for us, as Europeans, because it's a free trade of people movement around the continent. And now there are several countries saying, we suspend the treaty. We have new borders now. If we have new borders for people and for trade, I mean, how can we talk about digital single market? So I think that we have, first of all, regained the European ideal. The fact that only as a continent, we can have a better future.
Emilian.
We had a report in the European Parliament about encouraging entrepreneurship through education and training. I think it was wrong to separate that from ICT skills. And we have to do this beginning with the first grade with both entrepreneurship and ICT skills to bring it as soon as possible to the young peoples. Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the things that we referred to in the last conversation, is that teaching children how to code may sound like a completely basic and straightforward thing to do, but it's the first step to doing that, and having that as a core part of what we think everybody should be able to do is in itself a statement.
I think we have to draw this panel to a close, but I think you've all given us some really fantastic insights into both the economic prize that's there, but the work that needs to be done, and also the importance that will bring to the citizens of Europe. So thank you very much. Will you join me in thanking Emilian, Riccardo, and Liam? Thank you.